She opened her door to find a bleeding trucker collapsed in the snow, gasping a warning about men hunting him. What she didn't know, he was investigating her late husband's death. And the secret hidden in her attic would bring 299 truckers to her doorstep by morning. The wipers couldn't keep up. Ray Dalton squinted through the white chaos attacking his windshield, his knuckles bone white on the steering wheel. 43 years old, 22 years hauling freight across these mountain passes, and he'd never seen a blizzard swallow the road this fast. "Come on, baby," he muttered to his 18-wheeler, easing off the gas. The highway markers had vanished 10 miles back. Now there was only white, above, below, everywhere. Then he saw the headlights. They appeared in his side mirror, high and bright, closing the distance impossibly fast for these conditions. Ray's stomach tightened. Another rig? Out here? The CB had been dead silent for the last hour. Every smart driver had already pulled off to wait out the storm. The headlights surged closer. "What the hell are you doing?" Ray grabbed his CB radio. Breaker, you're coming up hot on my 6. Back it down." Static. The headlights swerved into the passing lane. Ray caught a glimpse, a black semi, no company markings, pushing 70 in near-zero visibility. Insane. Then it swerved directly at him. Ray's training kicked in. He yanked the wheel right, felt the trailer fishtail, heard the cargo shift. The black truck missed his cab by inches and disappeared into the white curtain ahead. Maniac. Ray's heart hammered. He tried to correct, but the road was pure ice under fresh powder. The trailer swung wide. He felt the sickening moment when the tires stopped gripping and the laws of physics took over. The world tilted. His truck slid sideways off the highway, plowed through a guardrail that screamed against metal, and slammed into a snowbank with a crunch that rattled his teeth. The engine died. The headlights flickered once and went dark. Silence. Just wind howling through a broken window. Ray touched his forehead, warm blood. His ribs screamed when he breathed. Had to move. Had to get out before. The CB crackled to life. "Should have minded your own business, hero." The voice was distorted, mechanical. Ray's blood went cold. They'd been jamming his signal. This wasn't an accident. They'd hunted him. He grabbed the backpack from behind his seat, the one thing they couldn't have, and forced his door open. Snow and wind attacked immediately. The temperature had to be 10 below, maybe worse with the wind chill. His coat was back in the sleeper cab, unreachable now with the trailer jackknifed. Ray stumbled into the blizzard, each step a battle. His vision blurred. Hypothermia would take him in minutes out here. Behind him, he heard an engine. They were coming back to finish it. Then he saw it. A light. Faint, golden, wavering through the snow about 200 yards off the road. A house. Had to be. Ray ran. Fell. Got up. Ran again. His lungs burned with frozen air. The light grew brighter, closer. A porch light. A farmhouse, standing alone in the wilderness like a lighthouse in a white sea. He collapsed against the front door and pounded with his fist. "Help," he gasped. "Please." The door opened, spilling warmth into the night. A woman stood there, elderly, silver-haired, wrapped in a quilted robe. Her eyes went wide at the sight of him, bloody, half-frozen, desperate. "Dear God," she whispered. "Please," Ray managed. "They're coming. They think I still have it." The woman looked past him into the storm, and something flickered across her face, not fear, but recognition of danger. She'd seen trouble before. Inside. Now, she grabbed his arm with surprising strength and pulled him across the threshold. The moment he cleared the doorway, she slammed it shut and threw 3 separate locks. Ray collapsed on the hardwood floor, his body shaking violently. The warmth felt like knives on his frozen skin. The woman knelt beside him, her hands already checking his wounds with practiced efficiency. "Stay with me. What's your name?" "Ray. Ray Dalton. I'm Miriam Blake." "You're safe now, Ray." Her voice was steady, calm, the voice of someone who'd nursed injuries before. "Can you stand? I need to get you away from this door." With her help, Ray made it to a worn leather couch in the living room. The house smelled like wood smoke and old books. A fire crackled in the stone fireplace. Normal. Safe. Everything his last hour hadn't been. Miriam returned with towels, a first aid kit, and a thick blanket. She worked quickly, cleaning the gash on his forehead, checking his pupils, wrapping his ribs. "You said they're coming," she said quietly. "Who's coming?" Ray's hand instinctively went to his backpack. "People who think I know something. About a death. A trucker who died 6 weeks ago at a truck stop in Montana." "What trucker?" Ray pulled out a worn photograph and handed it to her. 2 men stood beside a massive 18-wheeler at some kind of convoy event. The younger man was Ray, maybe 15 years back. The older man wore a leather jacket with wings embroidered on the back. He had kind eyes and a weathered smile. His CB call sign was Iron Eagle, Ray said. "Best man I ever knew. Taught me everything about the road." Police said he had a heart attack in his truck, but that's a lie. He was murdered. And I'm going to prove it. Miriam's hands started to shake. The photo slipped from her fingers, landing on the coffee table between them. Ray looked up, confused by her reaction. "Ma'am? You okay?" Miriam stared at the photograph, at the man with the wings on his jacket, and when she spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. "Iron Eagle," she raised her eyes to meet Ray's. "That was my husband. Samuel Blake. That was Sam." The fire popped in the sudden silence. Outside, through the howling wind, came the distant sound of an engine. Ray stared at the woman before him, his mind racing. "Your husband? But Sam never mentioned. He kept his road life and home life separate," Miriam said, her voice tight. 28 years he drove those highways. Said it was safer that way. For me." She picked up the photograph with trembling fingers. "I remember this day. He came home so excited. Said he'd met a young driver with real potential. Said you reminded him of himself at that age." Ray's throat constricted. "He saved my life once. My first year driving, I jackknifed it on black ice outside Missoula. Sam found me, talked me through the panic, waited 3 hours for the tow truck. After that, we'd cross paths every few months. He became family," Miriam finished. She looked at him with new understanding. "That's why you're doing this." A gust of wind rattled the windows. They both tensed, listening. The engine sound had faded, but Ray knew better than to relax. "Tell me what happened," Miriam said, pulling a chair close. "The truth. All of it." Ray shifted, wincing at his ribs. 3 weeks ago, I got a call from Sam's old dispatcher. Said Sam had died in his sleeper cab at a truck stop in Billings. Heart attack, they claimed. Natural causes, he shook his head. But Sam had the heart of a bull. He was 64 and passed his DOT physical with flying colors every year. The autopsy was rushed. Signed off in 48 hours, Ray leaned forward. "Mrs. Blake, Sam called me 2 days before he died. Left a voicemail at 3 a.m. He was scared, I could hear it in his voice. He said he'd stumbled onto something big. Something involving cargo theft, falsified manifests, routes being compromised. He said he was documenting everything in his logbook." Miriam's eyes widened. "His logbook? The police gave me his personal effects. There was no logbook. Exactly, Ray pulled his backpack closer. After the funeral, I started asking questions. Talked to drivers who'd seen Sam that last week. One of them, a guy named Dutch, said Sam had been paranoid. Kept checking his mirrors, changed his route twice, wouldn't use the main CB channels. Then Dutch told me something else. The night before Sam died, someone broke into Sam's truck while he was in a diner. Nothing was stolen, but his cab was torn apart. They were looking for the logbook, Miriam whispered. And they still are, Ray met her eyes. 4 days ago, I was loading cargo in Seattle when 2 men approached me. They knew I'd been asking questions about Sam. They said I should stop, for my own good. When I didn't, things escalated. Yesterday, someone broke into my apartment. Today, they tried to kill me. The wind howled louder, and something creaked on the porch. Miriam stood quickly, moving to the window. She kept the lights behind her, peering carefully through the curtain. Nothing, she said. Just the storm. Ray watched her move, efficient, alert, unafraid. This wasn't a fragile old woman. You're not surprised, he said. Not really. About Sam being murdered. Miriam returned to her chair, and for a moment, she looked very tired. After Sam died, things didn't add up. He called me that last morning. Said he'd be home in 3 days and we needed to talk about something important. He sounded determined. Not scared, but resolved. She folded her hands. Then the police came. Said it was his heart. But Sam's wedding ring was missing. He never took it off. And his favorite jacket, the one with the wings, they said they couldn't find it. Someone cleaned the scene, Ray said. That's what I thought. But what could I do? I'm a 72-year-old widow with no proof, her jaw set. But now you're here. And you have proof they're willing to kill for. Ray hesitated, then unzipped his backpack. He pulled out a small digital recorder. Before they ran me off the road, I managed to record CB chatter from a scrambled frequency. They didn't know I had a scanner that could pick it up. Listen. He pressed play. Static, then voices. Target acquired. He's on Highway 95 northbound. Does he have the book? Negative confirmation, but he's been digging. Black Hound wants him eliminated. Miriam gasped. Black Hound? Ray stopped the recording. You know that call sign? Sam mentioned it once. Said there was a driver who went bad, started running with criminals. He never told me more. She looked at the recorder. That's your evidence? It's a start. But they think I have Sam's logbook, the real evidence. And Mrs. Blake, Ray's voice dropped. I think I know where it is. Before Miriam could respond, her phone rang, the landline, loud in the quiet house. They both froze. It rang again. Again. Miriam picked up. Hello? A mechanical voice, distorted and cold. We know he's there, Mrs. Blake. Send him out, and you won't be harmed. The line went dead. Miriam set the phone down with deliberate care, her hand steady despite the threat. They've been watching the house. Ray was already on his feet, moving to the window. He stayed back from the glass, scanning the darkness beyond the porch light's reach. The blizzard had eased to steady snowfall, which meant visibility was returning. We need to leave. Now. I've put you in danger. Stop, Miriam's voice was sharp. Sam was murdered. You're the only person who believes it, who's willing to prove it. I'm not sending you out there to die like he did. Mrs. Blake. Miriam. And I mean it, Ray. She moved to a hall closet, pulling out a heavy coat and boots. Besides, you said you think you know where Sam's logbook is. Where? Ray turned from the window. How much do you know about truckers' codes? Enough. Sam taught me some of the CB slang, the unwritten rules. Then you know about dead drops. When a driver needs to hide something sensitive, they don't keep it in their truck, too easy to search. They leave it somewhere safe, somewhere meaningful, with someone they trust. Ray pulled out his phone, showing her a screenshot of Sam's final voicemail transcription. Look at the last thing he said: if anything happens, remember the eagle nests at home. Miriam read it, her brow furrowed. The eagle nests at home. I thought he was just being sentimental, talking about coming back to me. Maybe. Or maybe he was telling someone where he'd hidden the evidence. Ray looked around the farmhouse. This is home. Where would an eagle nest? Somewhere high, somewhere protected. Miriam's eyes went wide. The attic. Above the garage. Sam spent hours up there with his old CB equipment after he retired. Said he was tinkering, staying connected to his trucker friends. She grabbed a flashlight from a drawer. I haven't been up there in months. We need to be fast, Ray said, checking the window again. That call means they're close. The storm probably kept them from moving immediately, but... Glass shattered in the kitchen. They both spun around. A rock wrapped in paper had crashed through the window, landing on the linoleum floor. Miriam grabbed it, unfolding the note with shaking fingers. 5 minutes. Then we come in. The garage, Ray said. Now. They ran through the house into the attached garage. Ray's eyes swept the space: Sam's old pickup truck, tool benches, and a pull-down ladder leading to the attic. He yanked the cord, and the ladder unfolded with a groan. Stay here, he said. Keep watch. No. We go together. Miriam was already climbing, flashlight in hand. The attic was cramped and cold, filled with boxes and old furniture. But against the far wall sat Sam's CB radio setup, a professional-grade base station with multiple radios, a large antenna switch, and a desk covered in maps and frequency guides. Ray moved to the equipment while Miriam swept her flashlight across the space. He spent so much time up here. I thought he just missed the road. He was monitoring, Ray said, examining the radios. Listening to channels, tracking patterns. This is sophisticated stuff. He could scan 50 frequencies at once. He started opening drawers, searching behind equipment. Come on, Sam. Where'd you hide it? Ray, Miriam's voice was strange. She was standing by a small wooden chest, the kind used for blankets. This was locked when Sam was alive. He said it was just old radio magazines. I never questioned it. The lock was broken now, recently forced. Miriam opened it slowly. Empty. Ray's heart sank. They already found it. They've been here before. No, Miriam knelt, running her hand along the inside of the chest. Sam was cleverer than that. He knew people might look in obvious places. Her fingers found something, a small irregularity in the wood. She pressed, and a false bottom popped up with a soft click. Underneath was a worn leather logbook, a stack of photographs, and 3 micro SD cards. Ray exhaled. There it is. Miriam lifted the logbook with reverent hands, opening to the first page. Sam's handwriting filled the margins: dates, times, truck numbers, routes. But there were also names, coordinates, and frequency notations. The last entry was dated 2 days before his death. Black Hound operation confirmed. Major shipment Friday, Spokane Freight Yard. They know I know. If you're reading this, I'm probably gone. Give this to Ray Dalton, he'll know what to do. Tell Miriam I'm sorry I couldn't tell her. Tell her I love her. Iron Eagle. Miriam's hand covered her mouth, tears spilling down her cheeks. A engine roared outside, close, right in front of the house. Ray grabbed the logbook and cards. We have to go. Back door? Through the kitchen. My car's parked on the side. Miriam was already moving, tears forgotten, survival instinct kicking in. They descended the ladder as the front door exploded inward with a crash that shook the walls. Heavy footsteps entered the house. A voice called out, "Mrs. Blake? Mr. Dalton? Let's talk about what belongs to us." Ray and Miriam burst through the kitchen door into the side yard as boots thundered through the house behind them. Snow crunched under their feet, too loud, too visible. Miriam's old Honda sat covered in a white blanket, keys already in her hand. "Get in," she hissed, sliding behind the wheel. Ray dove into the passenger seat as a figure appeared in the kitchen doorway, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a ski mask. The man raised something dark and metallic. The Honda's engine turned over on the second try. Miriam floored it, tires spinning before catching. The back window spiderwebbed as something hit it, not a bullet, Ray realized. A rock or baton. They weren't trying to kill them here. Too many questions if bodies were found. Stay low. Miriam whipped the car onto the access road leading to the highway, driving with practiced confidence despite the snow. "There's a truck stop 15 miles east, Maggie's place. Truckers only, been there 40 years. If anyone knew Sam's contacts, it's Maggie." Ray clutched the logbook to his chest, adrenaline making his injuries scream. "They'll follow us. Let them try." Miriam's eyes were hard in the dashboard light. "I grew up in these mountains. I know every back road." She proved it. For 20 minutes, she navigated a maze of unmarked rural routes, checking the mirror constantly. By the time they emerged onto Highway 95, no headlights followed. The truck stop appeared like an oasis in the darkness, a sprawling complex of diesel pumps, a diner with a neon sign reading "Maggie's," and rows of parked semis. Even at 3 a.m., the lot was half full. The storm had stranded drivers here, Ray realized. Good. Safety in numbers. Inside the diner, warmth and the smell of coffee embraced them. A dozen truckers occupied booths and counter stools, tired men and women nursing mugs, studying logbooks, or sleeping with heads on folded arms. A waitress with steel-gray hair and sharp eyes looked up from behind the counter. "Miriam Blake?" Her weathered face softened. "Haven't seen you since Sam's memorial. Honey, what are you doing out in this weather?" "Hello, Maggie." Miriam moved to the counter, Ray following. "We need to talk. Privately." Maggie's eyes flicked to Ray, taking in his injuries, his tension, then to the other customers. "Back office. Now." She led them past the kitchen into a cluttered office that smelled of cigarettes and old paper. The moment the door closed, Maggie turned. "What's going on?" "Sam was murdered," Miriam said flatly. "And the people who killed him are after Ray." Maggie didn't look surprised. She sank into her desk chair. "I wondered. Sam came through here 3 days before he died. Seemed spooked. Kept looking over his shoulder, wouldn't sit with his back to the door." She focused on Ray. "You're the kid he mentored. Ray, right?" "Yes, ma'am. Sam said if anything happened to him, you'd be the one to ask questions." Maggie pulled a cigarette from her pocket but didn't light it, just rolled it between her fingers. "What do you need?" Ray set the logbook on her desk. "Information about this. Sam was tracking a cargo theft ring. The leader uses the call sign Black Hound. You know anyone who might?" "Everyone knows Black Hound." Maggie's voice went cold. "Started appearing on CB channels about 2 years ago. At first, drivers thought he was just another trucker. But then things got strange. Loads would go missing. Drivers who talked about seeing suspicious activity would have accidents, nothing fatal, just enough to send a message. Rigs would be sabotaged. The word spread fast, don't cross Black Hound." "Who is he?" Miriam asked. No one knows. Could be a driver, could be someone in logistics, could be multiple people using the same handle. Maggie finally lit the cigarette, exhaling slowly. But I'll tell you what Sam told me that last night, Black Hound isn't just stealing cargo. He's got connections, dispatch offices, way stations, even some law enforcement. It's organized, professional. Ray opened the logbook, showing her Sam's notes. Sam documented shipments that went missing, correlating them with CB chatter and route information. Look at this, 12 incidents in 6 months, all along the I-90 corridor. And here, he pointed to the last entries. Sam wrote about a major operation planned for Spokane. That's in 4 days. Maggie studied the notes, her expression darkening. Sam was always too brave for his own good. A trucker burst through the office door, breathing hard. Maggie, we got a problem. State police just pulled in. They're asking about a stolen truck and showing a photo around. Ray's blood went cold. Photo of who? You, the trucker, a young woman with short-cropped hair, looked at Ray with wide eyes. They're saying you hijacked your own cargo and assaulted the driver who tried to stop you. They got an APB out for your arrest. That's insane, Miriam said. He was run off the road. Doesn't matter what's true, Maggie interrupted. Black Hound's covering his tracks. If Ray gets arrested, that logbook disappears into evidence and gets lost. She stubbed out her cigarette. You two need to go. Back exit through the kitchen. Ray grabbed the logbook. Wait, Sam's notes mention coded messages on CB channel 19. If we can find Ray, Maggie gripped his shoulder. Run first. Decode later. Go. They fled through the kitchen as police radios crackled in the diner behind them. Outside, the snow had stopped, leaving the world crystalline and exposed under a clearing sky. Back in Miriam's Honda, Ray's hands shook as he opened the logbook. They've framed me. Even if we prove Sam was murdered, I'll be arrested first. Miriam started the engine, her jaw set with determination. Then we don't go to the police. Not yet, she looked at him. Sam's notes, where else did he mention? Places we can go? Ray flipped through pages, then stopped. The old Riverside garage. 30 miles west. Sam wrote it's where he stored convoy supplies with some old-timers. His finger traced the margin note. He marked it with an asterisk. That means something important. Then that's where we go. Miriam pulled onto the highway as dawn began to break behind them. In the rearview mirror, Ray saw police lights approaching the truck stop. They'd just escaped in time. But for how long? The Riverside garage sat abandoned at the end of a gravel road, flanked by skeletal trees and rust-eaten equipment. The building sagged like a tired old man, corrugated metal walls streaked with decades of weather, windows boarded up, a faded sign hanging by one chain that read, "Repairs." Miriam parked behind the structure, out of sight from the road. The sun had risen fully now, turning the snow-covered landscape into a blinding white expanse. They'd be visible for miles if anyone came looking. Sam used to help run convoy fundraisers, Miriam said, staring at the building. After he retired, he said some of the old-timers still used places like this to store equipment, spare parts, things for drivers in trouble. She turned to Ray. But why would he mark this place as important? Ray studied Sam's logbook entry again. Riverside, where the old voices still talk. He looked up. His CB equipment. When we were in your attic, I saw he had a base station, but this note suggests he had another setup. Somewhere off-grid. They approached the garage carefully. The main door was chained, but Ray found a side entrance with a rusted padlock that broke with one hard pull. Inside, the air smelled of motor oil and decay. Sunlight pierced through gaps in the walls, illuminating dust motes and old engine parts scattered across a concrete floor. There, Miriam pointed to the back corner. A heavy tarp covered something large. Ray pulled it away, revealing a full CB radio base station mounted on a workbench, even more sophisticated than the one in Miriam's attic. Multiple receivers, a powerful amplifier, and what looked like recording equipment. Everything was connected to a marine battery and a solar panel rigged through a hole in the roof. He was running a listening post, Ray breathed. Monitoring everything Black Hound's crew was saying. Miriam moved to a metal filing cabinet beside the bench. The drawers were locked, but the keys hung on a hook. Sam had wanted someone to find this, but only someone who knew to look. She opened the top drawer. Inside were dozens of mini cassette tapes, each labeled with dates and frequency numbers. The most recent was dated the day before Sam died. Ray's hands trembled as he loaded it into the playback deck and pressed play. Static, then voices. Schedule confirmed. Friday night, Spokane Freight Yard, Dock 7. 3 trucks, high-value electronics. Security? Handled. I've got the guard rotation, and our man inside will unlock the gate at 0200. A new voice cut in, distorted and cold, the same mechanical voice from the phone call at Miriam's house. This is Black Hound. Iron Eagle's been sniffing around dock schedules. He knows too much. Want us to handle it? Already in motion. Make it look natural. Heart attack, stroke, something clean. He dies tonight. The recording continued, but Ray had stopped breathing. Miriam stood frozen, one hand pressed to her chest. They planned it, she whispered. They planned my husband's murder right here on this tape. Ray's mind raced. This is evidence, real evidence. We can take this to the FBI, bypass local police. Wait, Miriam held up her hand, listening. The recording had continued. After Iron Eagle's eliminated, what about his files? Already searched his truck. Nothing. He must have hidden it. He's got family. A wife. Leave her alone unless she becomes a problem. We're thieves, not monsters. Ray stopped the tape. Not monsters. That's why they haven't killed us yet. They're willing to threaten, to intimidate, but they draw a line. Until we become too much of a problem, Miriam said grimly. She opened another drawer and pulled out a folder. Inside were printed transcripts of CB conversations, photographs of trucks at loading docks, and a hand-drawn organizational chart. At the top was written, Black Hound, with lines connecting to other call signs, Diesel Duke, Iron Horse, Night Rider. But one name stood apart, circled in red, Dispatcher, J. Carver, Pacific Freight Solutions. J. Carver, Ray said. That's the inside man. The one feeding route information to Black Hound. Miriam flipped through more pages, then stopped. Her face went pale. Ray. Look at this. It was a printed email, dated 1 week before Sam's death. The subject line read, Final warning. Sam, you've been told to stop asking questions. You've been warned about consequences. This is your last chance. Drop the investigation, or your wife learns what happens to heroes. A friend. He knew, Miriam said, her voice breaking. He knew they were threatening me, and he kept going anyway. Tears spilled down her cheeks. That stubborn, brave fool. He died protecting me. Ray put a hand on her shoulder. He died protecting all of us, every trucker on the road. This operation has been going for years. How many drivers have been hurt, framed, or killed? Sam found the proof to stop it. Miriam wiped her eyes, and when she looked up, her grief had transformed into something harder. Then we finish what he started. Ray gathered the tapes and documents, carefully packing everything into his backpack. He picked up the logbook, flipping to Sam's final entry about the Spokane Freight Yard operation. According to this, the heist is tomorrow night, Friday at 0200 hours. If we can stop it, catch them in the act with all this evidence. The police will have to listen, Miriam finished. But we can't do it alone. We need help. Real help. Ray pulled out his phone, then stopped. They could be tracking my cell. And if Carver's got connections in dispatch and law enforcement, who can we trust? Miriam's eyes lit up. The truckers. Sam always said the convoy community was its own brotherhood. If we can reach them, tell them what's happening. We'd need to use the CB. Ray looked at the radio equipment. But Black Hound monitors everything. The moment we broadcast. Then we use Sam's call sign. Miriam's voice was steady now, certain. Iron Eagle. They think he's dead. If his voice comes back on the air, it'll shake them. And every trucker who knew him will listen. Ray stared at her. You'd do that? Pretend to be him? I won't pretend to be him. Miriam straightened her shoulders. I'll speak as his widow. As someone who knows the truth, she moved to the radio, her hand hovering over the microphone. Sam protected these people his whole life. Now it's my turn. Outside, the sound of a vehicle approaching on gravel made them both freeze. Ray moved to the window. A black pickup truck with tinted windows rolled slowly past the garage, then stopped. They'd been found. Out. Now, Ray grabbed the backpack in Miriam's arm, pulling her toward the back door. The black pickup's engine idled outside. Through a crack in the wall, Ray watched two men step out, both wearing ski masks, both moving with military precision. One carried a crowbar. Miriam and Ray slipped out the rear exit just as the front door crashed open behind them. They ran low, using a row of junked cars as cover, reaching Miriam's Honda as voices shouted from inside the garage. Drive! Ray yelled. Miriam spun the tires in gravel, fishtailing onto the road. The black pickup emerged seconds later, giving chase. But Miriam knew these back roads. She took a hard turn onto a logging path, branches scraping the car's sides, then emerged onto a county highway heading south. We can't keep running, she said, knuckles white on the wheel. Eventually they'll corner us, or we'll run out of gas, or... I know. Ray pulled out Sam's logbook, flipping through pages. We need to broadcast that message. Get the trucker community mobilized before tomorrow night. He looked at the CB equipment specifications Sam had documented. Most long-haul drivers monitor channel 19. If we can get to a high point with a powerful transmitter, we could reach hundreds of trucks across 3 states. Miriam's eyes lit up. Miller's Peak. It's a rest area 40 miles north, highest point in the region. Truckers use it all the time. There's usually a dozen rigs parked there. Perfect. We broadcast from there, face to face. Harder for them to stop us if we're surrounded by witnesses. Ray checked the side mirror. No sign of the pickup, but that wouldn't last. How long to get there? 90 minutes if we stay on back roads. They drove in tense silence, every passing vehicle a potential threat. Ray used the time to review Sam's evidence, piecing together the full scope of Black Hound's operation. It was staggering, over $2 million in stolen cargo, 12 companies victimized, and at least 3 suspicious deaths beyond Sam's. Ray, Miriam said quietly. What if they don't believe us? The truckers, I mean. What if they think it's too dangerous to get involved? They will. Sam died for this. That means something in the convoy community. He looked at her. But Miriam, once we do this, there's no going back. Black Hound will know we have everything. They'll come at us with everything they've got. Good, her voice was steel. I want them to know we're not afraid. Miller's Peak rest area sat perched on a mountain overlook, offering a panoramic view of the valley below. 8 18-wheelers were parked in the lot, their drivers taking mandatory rest breaks or waiting out mechanical issues. Miriam pulled into a space near the center of the lot. Ray grabbed the backpack. We do this together. You tell them about Sam. I'll show them the evidence. They approached the nearest truck, a red Peterbilt with Kansas plates. Ray knocked on the driver's door. A bearded man in his 50s opened it, looking annoyed until he saw Miriam. "Mrs. Blake?" His expression softened. "I knew Iron Eagle. Good man. I'm sorry for your loss." "Thank you," Miriam said. "What's your call sign?" "Red River." "Red River, we need your help. Can you gather the other drivers?" "It's about Sam. About how he really died." Word spread fast. Within 10 minutes, all 8 drivers had assembled in a loose circle between the trucks, men and women of various ages, united by the road. Ray stood on a truck's running board so everyone could see him. "My name is Ray Dalton. Call sign Roadrunner. Iron Eagle was my mentor," his voice carried across the lot. 3 weeks ago, he was murdered because he discovered a cargo theft ring operating across the western states. The police called it a heart attack. But it was murder. Murmurs rippled through the group. Ray held up the logbook. "This is Sam's documentation, names, dates, routes, recorded conversations proving everything. The operation is led by someone using the call sign Black Hound. Tomorrow night, they're planning a major heist at the Spokane freight yard. If we don't stop them, they'll keep stealing, keep threatening, and more people will die." A woman with gray streaks in her hair stepped forward. "Black Hound's a ghost. No one knows who he really is." "Not yet," Ray said. "But if we catch them in the act tomorrow night with all this evidence, we can end this." "You want us to do what, exactly?" Red River asked. "Call the cops?" "We tried. They've got connections in law enforcement. They framed me for hijacking my own cargo." Ray looked at each face. "I'm asking you to help us stop that heist ourselves. Block the freight yard. Surround them so they can't escape. Force the authorities to respond." Silence. The drivers exchanged uncertain glances. Then Miriam stepped forward. "Sam died protecting all of you," she said, her voice breaking but strong. "He spent his last days documenting this operation because he believed in the convoy community. He believed truckers take care of their own." She pulled out the photo of Sam and Ray, holding it up. "This is Iron Eagle, your friend, your brother. They killed him. And if we do nothing, they win." A younger driver, barely 30, spoke up. "How many of us would you need?" Ray's heart surged. "As many as possible. Dozens. Hundreds if we can." Then we broadcast. Red River climbed into his cab and grabbed his CB microphone. "Channel 19, open call. Every trucker within 500 miles needs to hear this." One by one, the other drivers returned to their trucks, powering up their radios. Within minutes, the airwaves lit up. "Breaker 19, this is Red River. Any drivers listening, we've got a situation." Ray watched as the message spread, drivers relaying information across the network. Responses crackled back, call signs from Montana, Oregon, Washington, Idaho. Questions. Anger. Then, slowly, commitments. "Black Dog here, I'm in. Give me the coordinates. Mama Bear, rolling from Boise. Count me in. Steel Horse, Iron Eagle saved my life in '09. I'll be there." The voices multiplied. 10. 20. 50. More. Miriam stood beside Ray, tears streaming down her face as Sam's community answered the call. Then a new voice cut through the chatter, mechanical, distorted, cold. "Roadrunner. Iron Eagle's widow. This is Black Hound. You've made a terrible mistake." The radio fell silent. Every driver stopped talking, listening. "Tomorrow night, come to Spokane if you want. Bring your convoy. But know this, I'll be ready. And people who get in my way don't just lose cargo. They lose everything. The transmission ended. Red River looked at Ray. You still want to do this? Ray thought of Sam's last message. Tell Miriam I'm sorry I couldn't tell her. Tell her I love her. More than ever, he said. Friday night. 11:47 p.m. The Spokane freight yard sprawled across 20 acres of asphalt and warehouse buildings, lit by harsh sodium lights that turned everything orange and black. Ray and Miriam sat in her Honda at a truck stop 3 miles away, monitoring CB Channel 19. The radio had been alive for hours. Call signs checking in from across 4 states. The response had exceeded Ray's wildest hopes, and his deepest fears. Iron Horse, passing through Coeur d'Alene. ETA 40 minutes. Mountain Mama, just fueled up. Rolling with 3 others. This is Diesel Duke. Wait, that's one of Black Hound's crew. Ray grabbed his notepad, checking Sam's organizational chart. He's supposed to be part of the theft. But the voice on the radio continued, Diesel Duke here. I'm done with Black Hound. Count me in with the convoy. I've got information about the inside operation. Miriam looked at Ray, eyes wide. They're defecting. The CB crackled again. Red River's voice, all units, this is convoy lead. Current count, 273 trucks confirmed, 26 more en route. We're staging at the Flying J off exit 272. Roadrunner, what's the plan? Ray lifted the microphone, his hand steady despite the adrenaline. We form a perimeter around the freight yard starting at 0130 hours. Block every entrance and exit. When Black Hound's crew arrives, they'll be boxed in. No escape routes. We've already contacted the FBI, they're sending units, but they won't arrive until 0300. We need to hold them for 90 minutes. Copy that. One question, what if Black Hound doesn't show? What if this is a trap? Ray looked at Miriam. They'd considered this. Black Hound knew they were coming. He could abort the heist, disappear, rebuild somewhere else. But something in Sam's notes suggested otherwise. He'll show, Miriam said into the radio. Men like Black Hound don't back down. They double down. He thinks he can intimidate us into running. He's wrong. Silence on the channel. Then, Iron Eagle's widow has spoken. We roll in 40 minutes. All trucks, converge on staging area. Black Hound, if you're listening, tonight you answer for Sam Blake. The CB exploded with affirmations. Horn honks echoed in the distance, growing louder. Ray and Miriam drove to the staging area and found a sight that made Ray's throat tight, rows upon rows of 18-wheelers, their lights blazing like an army preparing for battle. Drivers stood in clusters, sharing thermos coffee and speaking in low, determined voices. Red River approached their car. Never seen anything like this. Word spread beyond the CB. Social media, trucker forums, phone calls. Some of these folks drove 12 hours straight to be here. He handed Ray a 2-way radio. Command frequency. The FBI agent you contacted, Agent Torres, she's on this channel. She's not happy we're doing this, but she's coming. At 1:30 a.m., the convoy moved. It was like watching a dragon awaken. Engines roared to life, 299 trucks rolling out in coordinated waves. Ray and Miriam followed in the Honda, watching in awe as the trucks split into groups, surrounding the freight yard from all sides. By 1:45 a.m., every exit was blocked by parked semis, their drivers standing outside, arms crossed, waiting. The freight yard sat silent, almost peaceful. Dock 7's lights were off, just as Sam's notes predicted. But Ray spotted movement, a security guard walking away from his post, checking his phone. The inside man. At 1:58 a.m., 3 unmarked semi-trucks approached the freight yard's main gate from the north access road. They slowed when they saw the wall of trucks blocking their path. Ray watched through binoculars. The lead truck's driver got out, a thick-set man with a shaved head. He pulled out a phone. "This is it," Ray whispered. The CB erupted, Black Hound just activated. Multiple transmissions on scrambled frequencies. Trying to call off the operation. Too late, they're boxed in. More vehicles appeared, 2 cargo vans and a pickup truck, all approaching different entrances. All finding their paths blocked by the convoy. Ray counted 15 people total, trapped in the killing zone between parked semis. Then a new voice came over the CB, clear and unfiltered, no mechanical distortion this time. "All right, Roadrunner. You win. Let us leave, and we'll disappear. No one gets hurt. Show yourself, Black Hound," Ray transmitted back. Face to face. Like Sam deserved. A figure emerged from the lead truck, walking into the pool of light near the gate. He was tall, gray-haired, wearing a leather jacket. As he came closer, Miriam gasped. That's Frank Holloway. He was Sam's dispatcher. He came to the funeral. He shook my hand and told me how sorry he was." Ray felt sick. Black Hound had hidden in plain sight, controlling routes, feeding information about cargo, orchestrating everything from inside the system. The ultimate betrayal. Holloway smiled coldly. Sam was too curious. Too honorable. That's a fatal combination in this business. "You killed him," Miriam said, her voice carrying across the silent yard. "I gave the order. Nothing personal, just business." Holloway looked around at the wall of trucks, at the hundreds of drivers watching. "You think this changes anything? I've got lawyers, connections, alibis. You've got circumstantial evidence and vigilante justice. Who do you think walks away from this?" Sirens wailed in the distance, multiple vehicles, approaching fast. FBI. Agent Torres's voice boomed over a loudspeaker. "Everyone stay where you are." But the truckers didn't move. They stood firm, witnesses to everything. Holloway's confidence flickered. He'd expected the convoy to scatter when law enforcement arrived. Instead, they held the line. Red River walked forward, holding a recording device. "We've documented everything. Your arrival, your cruise positions, your confession. 299 witnesses." More figures emerged from the FBI vehicles, agents in tactical gear, moving swiftly to secure Holloway's crew. Agent Torres approached Ray and Miriam. "This was reckless and illegal," she said. Then her expression softened. "But effective. We've been investigating Pacific Freight Solutions for months. You just handed us everything we needed." As Holloway was cuffed and led away, he locked eyes with Miriam one last time. She stared back, unflinching. "That's for Sam," she said quietly. Around the freight yard, the truckers began honking their horns, a long, triumphant sound that rolled across the valley like thunder. Iron Eagle's justice had been served. 3 weeks later. Miriam stood on her front porch, watching the sunrise paint the Idaho mountains in shades of gold and amber. The farmhouse looked different now, fresh paint on the shutters, new windows where bullets had shattered glass, security lights installed by volunteers who'd refused payment. The repairs had taken 4 days. Truckers passing through had stopped, tools in hand, asking what needed fixing. Some she'd never met before. Others had known Sam for decades. They worked in shifts, sharing stories about Iron Eagle, the time he'd pulled a rookie driver out of a jackknifed rig in Wyoming, the convoy fundraiser he'd organized for a widow whose trucker husband died of cancer, the CB advice he'd given to thousands of scared first-timers navigating mountain passes in storms. Miriam had listened to every story, collecting pieces of Sam's life she'd never known. Her husband had been a legend in a world she'd only glimpsed from the edges. Now she understood the depth of it, how many lives he'd touched, how much he'd meant. A truck horn sounded in the distance. Miriam smiled. They'd been doing that for weeks now, truckers passing on the highway, honking 3 times as they drove by her property. A salute. A remembrance. The screen door opened behind her. Ray stepped out, 2 mugs of coffee in hand. He'd been staying in the guest room, recovering from his injuries and working with the FBI to prosecute Holloway's network. 17 people had been arrested, including Jay, Carver and 5 corrupt officials who'd taken bribes to look the other way. "Morning," Ray said, handing her a mug. "Sleep okay?" "Better than I have in months." Miriam took a sip, savoring the warmth. "You?" "Good." Agent Torres called. "Holloway's taking a plea deal, 30 years, no parole." His lawyers told him the evidence was airtight. Ray leaned against the porch railing. Sam's recording, the logbook, the testimony from Diesel Duke and the others who defected. It was overwhelming. "Good." Miriam set down her mug. "What about you? What's next?" Ray looked out at the highway, where another truck was passing, horn blaring in tribute. "I've been talking to some of the convoy drivers. We want to start something, an organization dedicated to protecting truckers. Monitoring for corruption, providing legal help when drivers are exploited, investigating suspicious incidents." He turned to her. "We want to call it the Iron Eagle Foundation." Miriam's eyes filled with tears. "Sam would love that. We'd like you to be on the board." As co-founder, Ray's voice was earnest. "You have the moral authority. The community respects you. And honestly, you're tougher than half the drivers I know." She laughed through her tears. "I'll think about it." "Take your time." Ray checked his watch. "You ready for today?" Miriam nodded. "As ready as I'll ever be." At noon, a caravan of vehicles began arriving at the property: trucks, cars, motorcycles. Drivers from the Spokane convoy, local community members, and reporters who'd been covering the story. They gathered on the roadside lot where Sam's property met the highway. A memorial had been built there, a simple but striking monument of stone and steel. At its center stood a bronze plaque bearing Sam's photograph, his call sign, and the words, "Iron Eagle, Protector of the Highway." He stood for those who couldn't stand alone. Mounted above the plaque was Sam's original CB antenna, polished and gleaming, pointed skyward. Red River stepped forward to speak first, his voice carrying over the assembled crowd. Sam Blake was more than a trucker. He was our conscience, our compass, our reminder that this life means something beyond the freight we haul. He saw injustice, and he didn't turn away. He didn't stay silent. And when they tried to silence him, he made sure the truth would survive. Others spoke, drivers who'd known Sam for decades, rookies he'd mentored, even Agent Torres, who acknowledged that without Sam's documentation, the FBI's case would have been impossible. Then Miriam stepped forward. The crowd fell silent. She looked at the faces before her, young and old, diverse backgrounds united by the road, and felt Sam's presence like a warm hand on her shoulder. "My husband kept 2 lives separate," she began, her voice steady. "The man who came home to me, and Iron Eagle who lived on the highways. I thought I knew him completely, but these past weeks have shown me I only knew half. The other half belonged to all of you." She gestured to the crowd. "You were his second family. He died protecting you because that's what family does." She pulled Sam's logbook from her bag, the evidence that had brought down an empire of corruption. This book represents Sam's final gift. The truth, preserved so others could be safe. The FBI has copies now, but the original belongs here. She placed it in a weatherproof box at the base of the memorial. So anyone who needs courage can come here and remember, one person with truth and conviction can change everything. The crowd erupted in applause. Truck horns sounded, not just from the memorial, but from the highway beyond, where a line of 18-wheelers had stopped on the shoulder, their drivers standing outside their cabs in salute. Miriam counted them. 40. 50. More arriving every minute. Ray stood beside her, pointing. Look. From the north and south, convoys were approaching, massive lines of trucks, all converging on this spot. The radio chatter had spread word of the memorial dedication, and truckers had rerouted to be present. By the time the last truck arrived, 299 vehicles lined the highway, the exact same number that had stopped Black Hound. They honked in unison, a deafening chorus that echoed across the valley. The sound went on for 3 full minutes, a symphony of solidarity that made the ground vibrate. When silence finally returned, Miriam raised her hand in salute. 299 drivers saluted back. Ray handed Miriam a CB microphone connected to a powerful transmitter. They're all listening on channel 19. Do you want to say something? Miriam held the microphone, thinking of all the times Sam had come home late, smelling of diesel and road dust, his eyes distant with stories he couldn't share. Now she understood those stories. Now she was part of them. She pressed the transmit button. This is Miriam Blake, widow of Iron Eagle. To every driver listening, thank you. Thank you for standing with my husband when he needed you. Thank you for finishing what he started. And thank you for showing me that family isn't just blood. It's the people who show up when the road gets dark. Her voice cracked. Sam loved you all. He died believing in you. Don't ever forget what you're capable of when you stand together. She released the button. For a moment, only static answered. Then the CB erupted with responses, dozens of call signs, voices from across the country. We won't forget, Mrs. Blake. Iron Eagle's watching over us. Rest easy knowing we've got the road covered. 10-4, Iron Eagle's widow. We'll keep his legacy alive. As the sun began to set, the convoy slowly dispersed, each truck honking as it pulled away. Miriam and Ray stood watching until the last set of taillights disappeared into the dusk. What now? Ray asked quietly. Miriam looked at the memorial, at the antenna pointing skyward like a beacon. She thought of Sam's final message, tell Miriam I love her. Now we keep going, she said. We protect the people he protected. We finish what he started. She turned to Ray, and her eyes held the same determination that had carried her through blizzards and threats and loss. We make sure Iron Eagle never stops flying. Ray nodded, understanding flooding his face. The foundation. We build it into something that lasts. Something he'd be proud of. They walked back to the farmhouse together as stars emerged overhead. Inside, Miriam's phone was already ringing, a trucker stranded in Montana, needing help. The work had begun. On the highway, another truck passed, horn sounding 3 times in the darkness. Miriam smiled. Sam was home. And his legacy would never fade. The end.